And beginning the broadcast, according to USDA's June acreage report released Wednesday morning, 92.7 million acres of corn, 87.6 million acres of soybeans, and 46.7 million acres of wheat were planted by U.S. farmers in 2021. USDA's quarterly grain stocks report was released Wednesday morning as well. It tallied corn stocks at 4.1 billion bushels and soybean stocks at 767 million bushels. I spoke with University of Illinois Ag Economist Scott Irwin to get his thoughts on the numbers.
Well, I think the big story, obviously, from today's reports are the corn and soybean acreage numbers. With the boom in corn and soybean prices, the market has been expecting a much bigger acreage response than the March report indicated, and now the June report has confirmed that it's going to be a lot smaller than the market was counting on. And given the small stock situation we're dealing with, that's an explosive outcome.
And Scott, does all that tie into the market surprise that I saw you tweeting about?
Right, exactly. The market on both corn and soybeans, based on the pre-trade surveys that we all have access to, the trade was about 1.6, 1.7% higher on acreage than where the numbers came out. The market was thinking that combined corn and soybean acreage would be something about 182 to 183 million acres. And basically, that combined total changed very little from March to June. And I think the really important thing that's happened is even those pre-trade surveys don't always necessarily reflect, in a sense, what I call the money-weighted expectation in the market. And I think the big money in the market had been leaning what I call very heavy on corn and soybean acreage, particularly corn. If you remember, the market really tanked when IHS came out with the number of almost 97 million acres planted for corn. I think that really influenced a lot of people's thinking. And so there was a lot of expectations of a big corn number in particular in this report, and we did not get it.
Okay, so the big question on people's minds is, with the numbers that we're seeing from the USDA, what does that mean for corn and soybean prices?
For the time being, up, 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 up. I mean, we're seeing, corn locked up 40 cents, beans up 90 cents right now. Those are huge moves. Those acreage numbers put a billion bushel ending stock for your projection for corn in sight. And then you combine that with concerns about prospects for yields, particularly out where you're from, in the more of the Great Plains. You put that together with these now smaller acreage numbers, and you get a really explosive situation on corn. But the really explosive situation is soybeans, because basically at the new acreage numbers, and if I use 50 bushels an acre on soybeans, which that may be at more risk than our corn yields, because we have, so relatively speaking, more of our soybean production is in the drier areas right now. You put that together, basically, if you just take the June WASDE projections for use, and now you lay them up against maybe a little bit lower yield projection and these now flat acreage numbers for soybeans, and the balance sheet doesn't work.
And you alluded to this earlier. How big of an issue is this going to be for meeting soybean demand in 2022?
Oh, it's going to be a huge issue. Basically, tremendous attention is now going to be paid to weather prospects and yield prospects for both corn and soybeans, but particularly soybeans. We're going to obviously be hypersensitive to any evidence that soybean use is being rationed. I mean, we just look at the June WASDE numbers for 21-22. USDA didn't see much, a little bit, but now the market's going to have to run the price up to cut those usage numbers back at least 100 million and probably closer to 200 million.
And before we let you go, let's end things today with any marketing advice or selling strategies that you'd like to tell us about.
Well, here now I'm going to move into kind of an opposite perspective. We've not seen the supply response that the market thought was clearly going to happen in corn and soybeans. And so we're going to have really high prices this summer. But history shows that the supply response will happen. Some of it in South America when they start planting in our fall, and probably next year in the US from these high prices. So we're going to get a very large supply response over the next 12 to 18 months from these prices. History says the supply response will be real, it will be big, but it's usually lagged. I think that's what people in the market forgot. The grain price boom we're experiencing right now, Troy, is still less than a year old. And it takes a little while for to turn the super tanker of crop agriculture to a real expansive mindset. And what that means then is we're going to be setting probably the high prices in the next couple of months, or at least back to the old highs of a month or so ago this summer. So this looks to me like a really great marketing opportunity for both whatever you expect to produce for the 2021 marketing year that you don't have it sold yet, and in particular for 2022. Just as a kind of rough rule of thumb, I like to think about something like that, man, $5 out of the field or however close you can get to it for 2022, we're going to be right there, not far from it after today.